Hello, good evening, and welcome to Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now the headlines. Nigerian Senate appeals for leniency in the sentencing of Senator Ike Ekweremadu and his wife. Seventh grader kills 8 children and security guard in rare school shooting in Serbia. Iran seizes second oil tanker in less than a week amidst U.S. confrontation. My name is Femi Olanipeku. Now the news in detail. The Senate has joined the House of Representatives and the ECOWAS Parliament to appeal to the Central Criminal Court, Old Bailey, London, for leniency in the sentencing of Senator Ike Ekweremadu and his wife, Beatrice. The Senate's decision to appeal for clemency followed the motion raised by Senator Chukwu Kautazi during today's plenary session. This is coming after both the House of Representatives and the ECOWAS Parliament yesterday appeals to the UK government to temper justice with mercy. Senate President Ahmed Lawan, in his response to the motion, said he had written a letter to the British judicial authorities on behalf of the Senate 2 weeks ago seeking clemency. In the meantime, President-elect Bola Tinubu has appreciated Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State for his contribution to his victory at the keenly contested February 25, 2023 presidential election. Tinubu said this when he inaugurated the Rumola Road flyover in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. Tinubu said that he could not have achieved victory against major opponents like PDP's Atiku Abubakar and Labour Party's Peter Obi without a structural support from people like the governor. Tinubu was in the state at the instance of the governor who had supported power shift to the southern region.
Thank you for your contribution to my isms. I say thank you for your contribution to my victory. I couldn't have done it without some structural support, as not describable in a flyover. In His Excellency, I see a man of principle. He took a principled stand that the presidency must return to South. And he has the courage to stand by his convictions, not minding whose oxes go. He is indeed a man of great integrity. He did not choose to serve his own interests, not about him. Rather, the interests of the nation. You promoted unity. You promoted fairness. You championed justice. Thank you.
And to news outside Nigeria, at least 95 people have been killed in western Rwanda and flooding triggered by heavy rains. Governor of Rwanda's western province, Francois Habiteko, confirmed the latest death toll to newsmen this morning. He said the heavy rain last night caused immense suffering in the districts of Ngororero, Rubavu, Inyabihu, Rutsiro, and Karungi. He added that the hardest hit districts in the province were Rutsiro, where 26 people died, Inyabihu with 19 fatality, and Rubavu and Ngororero with 18 deaths each. A video clip posted on state-run Rwanda Broadcasting Agency's Twitter account showed muddy water running along a road and houses that had been destroyed. Meanwhile, Western countries have raised concerns at a United Nations humanitarian human rights meeting about the Russian private military contractor Wagner Group's activities in Mali, including an alleged role in the killings of civilians. In the United States, Canada, Great Britain, and Ukraine were among the countries at the meeting in Geneva today, questioning the kind of support Wagner contractors are giving Mali's armed forces. The countries asked Mali to conduct an independent investigation into an incident in March 2022 in Mora, central Mali, where local troops and suspected Russian fighters allegedly killed hundreds of civilians. Russia and Mali, whose leaders ceased power in a 2021 coup, have maintained that Russian forces were there are not mercenaries, but trainers, helping local troops with equipment bought from Russia. In Sierra Leone, the Electoral Commission has approved President Julius Maada Bio's candidacy for the June general elections as he seeks a second term in office. The EACSL yesterday also approved the main opposition party's nominee, Samura Kamara, who was the runner-up in the 2018 presidential polls. Mr. Bio will be running after a first term marred by economic hardship and rampant inflation in a country still recovering from the 2014 Ebola outbreak before the coronavirus pandemic hit. Frustrations over financial distress and a perceived failure by the government to cushion the effect of rising prices stoked a rare anti-government protest in August last year, which killed dozens. Voters in June will also elect members of parliament, mayors and local councillors. This will be the fifth polls since Sierra Leone's brutal 10-year civil war ended in 2002. And outside Africa, UK Security Minister Tom Tegenhart has insisted that anti-monarchy groups will be allowed to protest at the King's coronation on Saturday. His comments came after one group planning a demonstration on the coronation route was warned of new laws banning serious disruption. Republic, which campaigns to abolish the monarchy, accused the Home Office of sending an intimidatory message. However, Mr. Tegenhart said the anti-monarchy groups had the liberty that anybody in the United Kingdom has to protest, but they do not have the liberty to disrupt the activities of others. He added that the complexity of the security operation for the coronation was heightened by the presence of foreign leaders.
So I'd say to anybody who's thinking of doing anything like that, think of your fellow citizens. Think of your friends, your family, and your neighbours. Think of what this is about for many, many people. This is a moment when the country can come together. Whether you're a royalist, whether you're not, this is a moment where you can celebrate the family, the community that you're in. You can celebrate what it means to be British in an open, in a caring way, and make sure that you're there for each other. I think this is a huge opportunity for the country, and it's a major moment for us to come together, and I think that's something to celebrate. I'd say it's not for me to choose who the king marries, and the king chose to marry Camilla, and so I respect his choice, and I'm very much looking forward to meeting her one day as queen.
And to the Russia-Ukraine war, Russia has accused Ukraine of attempting an overnight drone attack on the Kremlin with the aim of killing President Vladimir Putin, the most vivid accusation Moscow has leveled against Kyiv since its war on its neighbor began. The allegations were made this morning by the Russian government and reported by several state news agencies. However, senior Ukrainian presidential official Mikhailo Podolyak told newsmen that Kyiv had nothing to do with the alleged incident. According to Russian officials, President Putin was not in the building at the time, and there was no material damage to the Kremlin. The Kremlin further warned that Russia reserves the right to retaliate and that it viewed the alleged assault as a terrorist attack. In the meantime, President Volodymyr Zelensky has said Ukraine would launch a counteroffensive against Russian forces soon, and that he was sure the West would supply Kyiv with modern warplanes afterwards. Speaking at a news conference in Finland, NATO's newest member, Mr. Zelensky said that one of the reasons he had traveled to Helsinki was that Kyiv wanted to become a fully fledged member of the military alliance. The Ukrainian president cited prior examples of battlefield successes that were followed by Ukraine being granted new types of military aid. However, Finnish President Sauli Niinisto said that Finland could not donate its US-made Hornet fighters because they were old, and a few other countries in Europe had similar models, so it would not make sense to build up a service chain. Elsewhere in Europe, 8 children and a security guard have been killed in a rare school shooting in Serbia. Police officials in central Belgrade said they received a call about the shooting in a school this morning. The suspect, a 14-year-old 7th grade student, was said to have fired several shots from his father's gun at other students and the school guard. At least one of 6 injured pupils was in a life-threatening condition and was undergoing surgery in a hospital, while a teacher was also seriously wounded. Mayor of the Central Vreka district, where the school is located, Milan Nedeljkovic, said doctors were fighting to save the teacher's life. Mass shootings are relatively rare in Serbia, which has strict gun laws, but the Western Balkans are awash with hundreds of illegal weapons after the wars and unrest in the 1990s. And in Asia, China's foreign minister has met Myanmar's top general in Naypyidaw, hailing the friendship between the two nations and pledging to boost ties as violence escalates in the southeastern Asian country 2 years after a military coup. Mr. Qin Gang's meeting with the senior general Min Aung Hlaing yesterday makes the diplomat the highest-ranking Chinese official to meet Myanmar's coup leader since he snatched power from the elected government in February 2021. According to a statement from the Chinese Foreign Ministry, Mr. Qin told General Min Aung Hlaing that Beijing attaches great importance to its friendship with Myanmar. Mr. Qin further advocated for the international community to respect Myanmar's sovereignty and play a constructive role in helping it achieving peace and reconciliation. China is a major ally and arms supplier of the internationally isolated military and has refused to condemn General Hlaing's takeover. The coup, which the post-elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi prompted widespread peaceful protest as security forces suppressed with deadly force. You're watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. I'll be right back after this break.
Iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okeogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited with the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally the first story building in Nigeria, is an archival museum dedicated to the memory of Africa's first bishop. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ajayi Crowther as a watershed character in history. Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness and participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history.
Thank you for staying with us. In the Middle East, Iran has seized an oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz in what is the second of such incidents in the region in a week, as tension with the United States continues. The Middle East-based U.S. Fifth Fleet and Iranian media confirmed this today, revealing that the naval force of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps stopped the tanker in the busy waterway. A video released by the Fifth Fleet appeared to show about a dozen fast-attack RIRGC vessels approaching a tanker that was identified as the Panama-flagged Niobe. The U.S. said the tanker was forced to reverse course into Iranian territorial waters during the unlawful seizure. Iran's state-run IRNA news agency confirmed that the vessel had been seized by the RIRGC but did not add further details. Last Thursday, the naval force of the Iranian army seized another oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman. Meanwhile, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi has arrived in Syria and is expected to meet with President Bashar al-Assad in what Iran is described as a sign of its strategic victory in regional affairs. Mr. Raisi landed in Damascus this morning for a two-day trip and received an official welcome to kick off the first state visit by an Iranian president to Syria in 13 years. He was accompanied by his ministers of foreign affairs, roads and urban development, petroleum and economic affairs, and Iran's central bank chief. Raisi's deputy for political affairs, Mohammad Jamshidi, told the state-run news agency IRNA prior to departure that the visit was a sign of the Islamic Republic of Iran's strategic victory in the region. Mr. Jamshidi said the trip is taking place after more than a decade of turmoil in the Middle East, which included the war in Syria, the war in Yemen, the rise of ISIL, and the propagation of terrorism. And staying with the Middle East, Israel has expressed hope that authorities in Saudi Arabia would allow direct flights for its Muslim citizens who want to make their Hajj pilgrimage, which takes place next month. Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen made this known today, disclosing that a request was submitted and the issue is under discussion. Mr. Cohen, in an interview with Israel's Army Radio, said he could not tell if there is any progress, but he is optimistic that peace can be advanced with Saudi Arabia. The Hajj occurs in the 12th month of the Islamic lunar calendar called Dhul Hijjah, between the 8th and 13th days of the month. In the United States, a man suspected of killing 5 of his neighbors in a shooting near Houston on Friday has been arrested. Sheriff Greg Gapus said 38-year-old Francisco Oropesa was arrested in the town of Cote and shot at Texas in a home hiding underneath some laundry. Police have accused him of killing 5 of his neighbors after an argument about him practice shooting with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle nearby. The victims are all from Honduras and included a 9-year-old child.
A man suspected of killing 5 of his neighbors in Texas has been arrested after police found him hiding in a cupboard underneath a pile of laundry. Francisco Oropesa, the suspected attacker, had eluded authorities since the mass shooting on Friday in the small town of Cleveland in southeastern Texas. San Jacinto County Sheriff Greg Capers told reporters at a news conference on Tuesday night that he was caught hiding in a closet underneath some laundry.
Bottom line is, we now have this man in custody. He was caught hiding in a closet underneath some laundry. They effectively made the arrest. He is uninjured, and he is currently being taken to my facility in Cold Springs.
Mr. Oropeza is accused of attacking his neighbors after they allegedly asked him to stop practicing with his rifle as the noise was keeping the baby awake. The arrest of Mr. Oropeza, a 38-year-old Mexican national, brings to an end a 4-day manhunt that swept up law enforcement officials across multiple jurisdictions, including the FBI. Drones and Saint tracking dogs were used as police searched an area as far south as the Mexican border.
Right now, we have a lot of dedicated resources that are helping out the Sheriff's Office, FBI. It's a multi-agency effort, multi-agency manhunt. We have Texas Rangers, tactical teams, air support, drones, pretty much every resource that we have right now at our disposal at the state level dedicated to this manhunt. The governor just recently announced a $50,000 reward in search and also the apprehension of the suspects.
The incident took place on the night of April 28 when the suspect barged into his neighbor's home and opened fire, killing 5 of the 10 people inside, including an 8-year-old boy. Authorities deployed hundreds of law enforcement officers to look for the suspect and offered a reward of $80,000 for information leading to his capture. FBI Special Agent Jimmy Paul told reporters that a call to the bureau's tip line ultimately led law enforcement to Oropeza, who was arrested north of Houston at about 6:45 p.m. on Tuesday.
So just wanted to say, first and foremost, the victims and their families are in the forefront of our minds, and we're extremely delighted that the suspect was captured. The tip for the suspect's location came in through the FBI's tip line, and we just want to thank the person who had the courage and bravery to call in the suspect's location.
Special Agent Paul, Ted Williams, Fox News. Do you know if this individual will be facing federal charges?
Currently, it's an ongoing investigation, and he's being charged by the San Jacinto County Sheriff's Office.
The police said most of the victims were shot in the head and they were all from Honduras who lived there, but were not all family members. According to Sheriff Kepas of San Jacinto County, the suspect was taken into custody by members of the Border Patrol Tactical Unit, or BOTAC, which is a specialized unit. While U.S. immigration officials said Oropeza will be charged with 5 counts of murder, adding that the alleged attacker was deported 4 times between 2009 and 2016. An investigation is underway into how the suspect obtained the weapon used in the killings, which was an AR-style rifle. Temitokbe Ajijolaluola, Western Spring Television News.
In South America, police have searched the home of former President Jair Bolsonaro in the Brazilian capital, Brasilia. The raid is part of an investigation into a group suspected of tampering with the government database holding information about COVID-19 vaccinations. Mr. Bolsonaro's close aide, Mauro Cid, has been arrested as part of the raid. Police said the database had been altered to change the vaccination status of several unnamed individuals. According to police, this was done so that the individuals whose vaccination status had been changed would be able to get vaccination certificates necessary to enter the United States at a time. Mr. Bolsonaro is a vocal opponent of COVID vaccinations who repeatedly spread false information about the vaccine and its alleged side effect. In other news, Indian budget airline GoFirst has cancelled all of its flights for the next 3 days after filing for bankruptcy protection. The carrier says a full refund will be issued to affected customers. It is the first major airline in the country to file for bankruptcy since Jet Airways went bust in 2019. GoFirst blamed U.S. engine maker Pratt & Whitney for having to ground many of its planes, which it says caused a severe cash flow problem. GoFirst said the problem forced it to ground 2325 aircraft, about half of its fleet of Airbus A320neo planes, which cost about $1.3 billion in lost revenue and expenses. The airline also accused Pratt & Whitney of not following an order by an emergency arbitrator, which included supplying at least 10 serviceable spare leased engines by 27 April 2023. Meanwhile, shares in several regional banks in the United States have dropped sharply as investors fear the banking crisis that has gripped financial markets is not over. The falls come a day after the collapse of First Republic, which was seized by regulators and sold after worried customers withdrew more than $100 billion. It was the second biggest bank failure in U.S. history and the third since March. Shareholders were wiped out and are now eyeing risk after the banks. The turmoil comes as the banking sector is adjusting to a sharp rise in interest rates. And now to some sports stories. Arsenal have condemned the dangerous and totally unacceptable behavior of a 21-year-old man who has been arrested for shining a laser in the face of Chelsea winger Mikhailo Mudryk. The Met Police confirmed the man is in police custody after being arrested during the Ghana's 3-1 win at Emirates Stadium yesterday. A green light was visible on Ukraine international Mudryk's face after he came on as a 71st-minute substitute. Arsenal, in a statement, said the behavior was dangerous and totally unacceptable, and the club will fully support the police with their inquiries. Mudryk joined Chelsea from Shakhtar Donetsk in January in a deal worth up to £89 million, but he is yet to score for the club in 14 appearances. And still in England, Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp has been charged by the Football Association for his comments about referee Paul Tierney after his side's 4-3 win against Tottenham on Sunday. The German, who said he regretted the headlines created by his comments, said Tierney appears to have something against his team. The FA alleged Klopp's comments constitute improper conduct. Klopp has until Friday, 5th May, to respond to the charge. Before we end Spring Global, here is a recap of our top stories. The Senate has joined the House of Representatives and the ECOWAS Parliament to appeal to the Central Criminal Court Old Bailey, London, for leniency in sentencing of Senator A.K. Ekweremadu and his wife Beatrice. 8 children and security guard have been killed in a rare school shooting in Serbia. And Iran has seized an oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz, and what is the second of such incidents in the region in a week as tension with the United States continues. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. My name is Femi Olanipe. Thank you so much for watching. Good evening.